Welcome them to the stage, please. Clap, clap. Welcome them to the stage. Awesome. So why don't we start with one of you introducing yourself? Jade, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm Jade. I'm one of the Canadian leads from Canada. So I go to University of Guelph. It's about an hour outside of Toronto. My school is mainly an agricultural-based school. So for my club, what I'm trying to do is get those non-technical students involved in a technical club and just bring this kind of environment to them. So that's kind of where I'm coming from in that sense.
I'm Alex. I go to the University of Central Florida in Orlando. I was a part of the SI program last year, so I did a lot of the similar kind of stuff, but this is my first year, of course, as well as all of you doing the DSC. So I have a few tips on how to get a lot of people out to your events and stuff like that. Should I start with them now? Is that okay? Or
One more intro.
Hey, my name is Dashvin. Feel free to call me Dash. I'm a student, a fourth year at the University of Toronto, and me, Kevin, and Jade are here from Canada to answer any questions you guys have. And we hope you had a great time this weekend.
Awesome.
I'm Kevin. The person you saw yesterday.
Okay, so the way we're going to work this out is I'm going to walk around. We have a few other volunteers who are mic runners. We want questions from you to come out to the stage. Ask them. Before we get started, what are the most general questions that you got this weekend? Right? And then what kind of advice do you have to them?
Yeah, sure. So I'll start. One of the biggest questions that I always get is about actually what happens if I miss the deadline for recognition at school. And I know the US program, like I mentioned yesterday, started a little bit later than our Canadian program, and we had trouble getting our recognitions in on time. So I can only imagine for probably the most of you, the recognition deadline has passed. But I just want to reiterate that getting the school recognition is just one part of the process of getting recognition. So even if that doesn't work out, you tried pulling strings, pulling connections, doesn't work out, that's not a problem because DSC, it's in its first year, and you're leaving something behind for future leaders to iron those issues out. For you, what's important is gaining presence and support from the students themselves, and you don't need anyone's approval to do that. So focus on everything everyone shared today with respect to branding, marketing. Don't worry too much about that one recognition status. It's not something that we care about. It's not something that the program team cares about, as long as you can carry out your projects and your events, and go find other clubs to partner with in your first year if you have trouble with room booking and stuff due to this recognition. So that's the most common question I got.
Quickly, if I could, before you answer, if you have a question, just raise your hand so we can get the microphone to you. Thank you.
One of the questions that I got a lot is you've planned an event, but what if no one shows up? I feel like that's probably a big concern or a little bit of a stressor. I definitely think about that when I'm planning an event. In that case, before I plan my event, you got to make sure it's a good venue, it's easily accessible for all your students, and then you've done the timing thing, it's on a good night. I make sure all of my friends and every single person I know on campus is going to come, and I look at them and I'm like, you're coming to my event, you're going to be there, I expect you to be there. If you're not there, I'm going to call you and we're going to have some problems, but I make sure that I get my personal network and my personal community to be there and just talk to students. And then at the events, make sure that I have a connection, or my team or anyone has a connection to the attendees. So then they come back to your next event. If they feel like they have a personal connection with you and they're like, I know the lead, I know someone on their core team, I really want to be involved, they're going to come back over and over again because they're connected to your club.
And a similar thing going off that I kind of realized towards the end of last year that I wish I knew the whole time was to give away prizes. I would do whoever got the most people to come out, whoever got the most friends to come along with them. So that's another aspect of getting way more people to come out, and that's no work that you have to put in. So somebody would come and bring 20 of their friends with them and be like, okay, cool, you won a Google Home Mini, rather than just raffling it off randomly, because then it goes to someone who might not have been as excited about it. There will be people who come and they are like gung ho want that Google Home Mini so bad, but if you just raffle it away randomly, I found that it always went to somebody who like barely knew what it was or anything, and I was like, oh, I wish the other person got it. But so that's a good way to get people amped up and reward the people who are really excited about your club.
How do I get started? I've not worked with Google products. That's something I've got, and the first thing I suggest you do when you go back is go to GDG, just Google search GDG, look up the closest GDG chapter to your community, reach out to them, tell them, hey, I'm starting a club here, I've had the summit, how can I get started? Do you have any tips for me? How do you run events? Because they've run all these things already. So they're your closest friend actually there in your community itself. So make sure to reach out to them, GDG, Women Tech Makers, Google Developer Experts. Yeah, we have a question there, yeah.
Hello. So I just had a question regarding the proceedings of events. So I know that we have cloud study jams and we have those big events, and obviously they require a lot of you need rooms and you need a lot of prep for that. You need catering and everything. So I was wondering that could you suggest some events or competitions that do not require any prep, like room reservations? This way we can get past all that prep time and stuff like that. So do you have any recommendations on that?
If you do things online, right, just have a call and have everyone join the call. That's free of charge, no prep, nothing. Other than that, having an event where people come in, most of the time gives you more value because there's human interaction. And we want human interaction in this time and age.
If
But
you don't,
online,
you're good. If you don't want a big like cloud study jam, you don't have time to organize something that's 3 hours, 4 hours long. The way that we're working on structuring our club is having a bigger event and then kind of like a follow-up. So anything you learned in the bigger event, you can come talk about it, or just like smaller breakout sessions where you have like a speaker come in, or like it's maybe an hour, 2 hours, and it's more low key. Maybe you do like a code lab or something that's already created and you don't have to create it from scratch. Usually pretty helpful, kind of like stagger those big events with something smaller so you're not just like big event after big event after big event.
I would also say ask for feedback from those who are attending your events, right? Make sure that, you're actively seeking that, so that way if maybe the content was too high level, right? Maybe they didn't have enough time to engage with the facilitators, right? Asking feedback is really important, and don't take feedback personally, right? It's an opportunity to grow, so just take it in stride. Sorry, just had to interject.
Yeah, and like all of the general things, if you want something specific that I've tried with other clubs at campus that I think is quite fun to do, get some DSC stickers for your club, and paste them all over the campus, and then do a competition on social media for people to find these stickers, take a picture, tag your group or anything on LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever platform you choose to use. This is a good way to get exposure, and you can give out a small prize, like the person who finds the most number of these stickers can get a Google Home Mini or something like that. An activity like that doesn't require room booking, doesn't require catering, but it gets people engaged, and people are always looking out for small DSC stickers throughout campus, and I think that's kind of funny. So yeah, that's one specific activity, but there are lots like it, right? So not all activities need to be super formal, super planned.
And another for those longer events that you're talking about, I would do, so like for cloud study jam, supposed to be like 3-4-ish hours. I would do every hour, I would do like a prize, and I would start from small to big. So within on the hour, after the first hour, I'm giving away 10 t-shirts. On the next hour, 2 Google Home Minis, and then at the very end, like a Google Home Hub. So that, because it'll get kind of like boring and like sluggish in the middle, so you want to like keep them like looking forward to something.
We have a question.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, ask it.
Okay. So yeah, you keep talking about like these prizes. Like, how are you getting these prizes, and like, where's the budget coming for these prizes?
So let me see. I can't. Oh, there's one person over there, and then one person over here who can help you with that. But in general, if you run a cloud study jam, that's an initiative that directly aligns with what Google developers are pushing out to the community. And for events like that, it's very easy to get budget approval, you have to speak to one of your community managers, and they'll walk you through the process, how much you get per person, etc. So when we ran our study jam, that's the way we did it. We're expecting 200 people. What's our budget? And then you go buy the prizes yourself. If you want to run events that are not study jams and not as big, like smaller initiatives, you should still reach out to your community managers, but you probably will get less funding for those events. But you still get some support. And like I mentioned yesterday as well, there are other sources of funding, especially around your campus. Since you're starting a campus club, and most other clubs don't have financial support at all from companies. So find ways to get money from your local community as well, because the school really should be directing a lot of their resources to fund initiatives just like this one. It's something that benefits the local community way more than like just pushing out some initiative that Google wants to push out. It's way more than that. So for the students' benefits, you should definitely reach out to other resources on campus as well. But speaking to your community manager is a good place to start.
We have, I think, a question right here. Yeah.
Hi, so my question is, a large theme for this event has been community, and this club will have a lot of students from graduate programs, undergraduate, different backgrounds. So my question is just, do you have any advice or tips for making, I guess, a culture and like creating a rapport among students who are incredibly different and have different experiences, whether it be like tech or non-tech. So just like having it mean something and creating that environment where like being in a DSC is a part of a community. Thank you. Yeah.
One thing before I pass it on. So the differences you have in your club is what strengthens your club. So the more different you have, the more different opinions you have, the more different ideas you have. So please make your club as diverse, as inclusive, as different, because that's how it strengthens itself. Sorry, to Jade now.
So when we talk about, I think, diversity and community, in my school, we talk a lot about starting from our core team. So making sure your core team is diverse and you've got people from non-technical backgrounds, technical backgrounds, different culture, different experiences, life experiences. Maybe there's master's student, PhD student, undergrad. You don't want everyone the same year or same kind of experience. You want to make sure that if I have something that I'm going to present, I can go to the first year on my team and be like, hey, can you go through these slides for me and make sure this isn't too technical, or make sure you can understand what I'm trying to portray here and make sure you can do that with your people. Something that I thought interesting that relates to this point is in our presentations earlier, we had about 10 teams. And so we had 10 people up here presenting. I didn't see any of my female US leads on the stage. So I think that's another point to mention when you're running events or creating that community, making sure your team is diverse, but making sure your events and the people you invite in, the people you have like showcasing, the people you're profiling are representative of the community you want to create. So having lots of different kind of people talking on stage, in your posts, different stuff like that is good, so that people who come to your club can see someone who they kind of associate with or can relate with.
So first of all, that was an amazing question. Thank you so much. That's awesome. I think when we're looking for those diverse people, we want these ambitious people, right? And so those people are a lot of times looking for how they can gain leadership, what they can add to their resume. They might not usually want to be just a general member. So I think a great way to get those diverse people in is by but having leadership positions for them. So finance, like you might need somebody to handle dues or funding or stuff like that. Social media, of course, but also then diversifying for not only like one social media lead, but also having like one person for PR, one person for like maybe like alumni, just adding things so that they can feel like they're getting more out of it. So I think that's a great way to like get them involved, and then from there it'll happen naturally, I think. But.
I had a question about gaining members versus getting the core team first. On one hand, I feel like once I had a core team, then recruiting a bunch of members with a bunch of diverse backgrounds would be much easier. But on the other hand, I don't want to pick a core team that's too narrow because I start when I have too few members. So what would you say is a good path for going through that?
We talk a lot about making sure that your foundation of your clubs, your core team is really solid before you start. So don't rush through that. Don't try and get really into it. Make sure that your core team is what you really want to portray before you start, and you don't run out the gate and then a month in or 2 months in, you're like, wow, I wish I did this with my core team, and now it kind of limits me with some stuff. So that's kind of like the core team part. As far as members, it's really going out and talking to people. So making connections with people in different majors, different programs. I partner with some of the other like faculty schools in my university. So I have people from our computer science department who send out emails for me or post for me, but we also have people from the business school or like our agricultural school or our biology, our experiential learning department. So making sure our marketing gets out to lots of people, and how you market is also important. So if you're running a technical event, make sure you specify this is more technical. But if you're running something that's non-technical, make sure you say, you don't need to code. This is a safe space. Just very emphasis on you don't need to code just because this club says it's sponsored by Google or like supported by Google developers doesn't mean you can't come, doesn't mean you have to be technical. That's what I find is a barrier. People will be like, still messaging me, like I still market, and I'm like, you don't need to code. And I still get questions like, are you sure? Like, I've never coded before. And I'm like, literally, you don't need to know how to program as long as you can turn your computer on and off. Maybe not even like I'll turn it on for you kind of thing. Like, we can do it together. I think that's a good point to make.
I'd like to add what Jade said, and this ties back to what she said earlier and what Naveen mentioned. Throughout the presentations, if you notice, everybody talked about diversity. Everybody wanted a diverse team. And we're talking about diverse teams, but we need to start walking. And what I mean by walking is make sure your team is actually diverse. You are leaders and you make the decisions of team members. Make sure your team has people who are unrepresented in the community, because that's how you build the picture of your team. You don't want to say, oh, we're diverse, we're inclusive, and you don't do that. So make sure you walk the talk, and all the good talk that happened here today, make sure you go back and actually walk it and lead by example. And your core team, the quality of your core team is on you. Be the leader you want to work with, and that's how you'll make a good core team. So make sure you are the inspiration to your core team. You won't find anybody, perfect coming to you. You have to make them great.
How do you get past the issue if you're a department registered club? Because I know we've had a lot of issues trying to go market outside of the computer science department, just because we are listed as, what's the purpose of your club, select a category, computer science is there.
First of all, I wholeheartedly believe that no matter what department you're affiliated with, they should not block you from having your event be projected out to other students. That would seem like a weird decision. It's like counterproductive to the whole point of having the club. Honestly, if the school somehow gets in the way of you reaching out to your community or a greater community, find your own methods of doing it. Sometimes that's not easy. Sometimes relying on internal department letters is the best way to reach a large number of people, because people sometimes actually read those letters. But rely on your other channels, right? Your social media channels, for example, Facebook groups, and there's no barriers, there's no walls there. You can reach out to whoever you want. For our community, we even had small business owners and some volunteers in the community reach out to us attending our events from outside the school community, and that's fine too, because you're building a community that it's, like everyone says, includes everyone who wants to partake in it. So yeah, sometimes if the school should not be obstructing your way in terms of reaching out to your community, maybe you should provide some feedback about that if you find that to be the case. But if they are, use your own channels of outreaching to students. Build your own mailing lists, right? There's some great tools out there for that.
And sorry, one more thing to add to that. We're talking a lot about getting people from other majors, diversity on your core team. I think once you have leaders on that team with you who are in those other majors and other fields, they will be able to tell you what people in that major are looking for, what gets them out to events, what attracts them. I mean, we can guess, but that they will be the best person to tell you, and they know how other clubs do it.
I had also one more thing to add on top of that. So before you actually get the people from diverse majors, if you're like, I want a business student, but I literally don't know anyone in business because I'm in computers and these are all the people I talk to, I would go to a faculty member or maybe someone on campus who's like in your internship programs or something, who runs like career services or knows a lot of students on campus, and just talk to them, be like, hey, I'm running this club and I'm looking for some students from this department. Do you have any students in mind, or do you recommend anyone? Because I've done that, and you can usually get some pretty good leads from there, and then reach out to them further on from that.
I had a working question, I guess, because we've all just only started. But in terms of retention, let's say you get like 200 people out or like 400 people out to your first event. You got to bring a lot of pizza, stuff like that. But then, getting pizza every single week is kind of repetitive, or doing the same thing every single week, regardless of whether you're giving out T-shirts, something gets kind of repetitive, even with prizes, stuff like that. So what are some strategies you may have, or some things you might consider when thinking about how to keep people, let's say introverted, extroverted, whatever they are?
So actually, a question, an idea I had just a few minutes ago that I talked about. I'm not sure if it's possible, but I don't know if this is the same at your universities, but people at UCF go crazy for the graduation chords. They like live for it. I don't know. Is that the same at your school? No, not really. Oh, okay. Well, that was an idea I had to like get people to like continue on with it. But any other ideas?
I think you raise a very interesting point, and I definitely want people to have the right takeaway from these conversations. Your club is not a business. The number is just a number, right? What I shared in my slides yesterday, every campus is different. Sometimes your entire department has 200 people in it. So don't fight for the number in your club. Your impact on campus is the fact that you brought something new to your community that didn't exist before. So don't focus so much on the numbers. And things like retention rate, I almost think like that's the wrong way to think about this kind of problem. As many students will come out to your events as they feel like. If more people came out to your first event and less people came out the second time, you should reflect and ask, is there something that has changed about this, or am I just doing it too often? Am I prioritizing quantity over quality? And ask yourself these kind of questions, these kind of reflection questions before you proceed. Because from the student's perspective, they're not going to be biased for or against your club. They will attend your event. If they have a good time, they'll come back. And if they don't, they won't. So I think I lost it. Oh, okay, it's good. And so my point is, don't think too much about the numbers. Every campus is going to be different. For some of you, getting 20 students in a room from your department will be the biggest accomplishment, more than getting 200 from other universities. But what's important is that you build relationships with the people that do come out, so that they do want to return. And once a week does sound like a lot of events, so set realistic expectations for yourself and your team. For us, once a month was a good metric. But again, every university is different.
If I can kind of jump in on one thing, I think, Kevin, you make a really, really good point, right? Don't worry about quantity, worry about quality. But at one point, you almost want to step back and ask, what are you really trying to accomplish, right? I think you brought in like, there's swag, there's like all these kind of incentives, but how do you really connect and build retention? And that always will boil down to making sure that the solution that you're providing these students connects with a need. So what I would almost say is take a step back. And on your campus, have you determined where is that area of opportunity for student developers, right? What does the current offering look like? What is covered in classes? What do students really want? Maybe it's a really technical school and they've got all these projects and they need help kind of building on those projects. Maybe there's particular languages they're interested. Maybe there's an interest in entrepreneurship and startups, right? So what I would say is almost taking a step back and really hammering out on your campus, what is the area of opportunity for student developers? Tailor your strategy and your vision and your core team and everything to address that need. Because if you're directly connecting to a need and people can get behind that, they will come. Right? You don't need to manufacture a retention. It will happen. And it's okay, to Kevin's point, it's okay to focus on smaller numbers rather than bigger ones.
I think Homo brings up a very good point. Just out of curiosity, has anyone taken economics here before in high school, university? So this is half a joke, but also very serious. Don't enter a monopolistic market with DSCs. If you are trying to bring participants out with what food you have and what swag you are giving out, that's the wrong type of market to be competing in, because that's not an efficient use of resources. You want to bring something unique to your community through things that other clubs may not be able to. And for that, I mean, having money is great and all, but remember my funding curve. You don't want to overdo it. So don't rely on what food you're catering, what catering you're getting, or what prizes you're able to give out. It's not that kind of a competition you're trying to enter into with other clubs on your community. Instead, try and focus on some new and creative types of events. The Study Jam is a really well templated event for you to launch already. And that's something that, trust me, a lot of other clubs don't have the resources to just bring out, because you have the knowledge now and you have the community support behind you. But think of other types of creative events. Host small hackathons, for example, other sort of workshops, bring in speakers from the industry. It's your world, it's your community, and you're building it whatever way you want. But definitely don't enter that price competition with other clubs.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. We're going to go with some of the last few questions over here. As you can see, we created a line over here, so we kind of keep the order going. So please go ahead.
All right, so I got 2 questions. I'm able to ask.
Go for it.
One is a lot quicker, but so we talked a lot about the why, right? But I kind of want to bring it back to a more superficial layer. So I was just wondering if I wanted a Google Pixel 4 XL 128 gigabytes at my event. I was just wondering, this is, I'm gonna get to the details soon of why I'm asking this. So I was wondering what is the range of like what Google would actually support us, like budget-wise, and what we can like exceed, right? And then the second question would be, right now my campus is in Silicon Valley area, and we have a lot of entrepreneurial minds. So a lot of my student body, they want to build projects that later on become startups. So I was wondering if we can take some projects that students build and kind of like cultivate it a little bit more. I remember a speaker was talking about Launchpad that Google has as an accelerator, and I was wondering if DSC has like a leeway into this kind of like Launchpad thing.
Okay, so to be fair to these panelists, I'll answer both questions.
Okay.
From a budget perspective, the way we look at it from a budget perspective, we're always relying on the DSC leads and the DSC teams to figure out a way to run their event with the least amount of money possible. I love the slide that Kevin put on from a graph, from a point of inflection, how much money you actually need and how much money is too much money. Swag and whatnot, my rule of thumb to all of you is this. If you're not sure or if you're curious, whatnot, ask us. Hey, I'm running this event. I'd like to do this. I'd like to have pizza, or I'd like to have a prize. What do you think? Is there some way that you can help? We're always looking at that, and we say no sometimes. We're like, no, you know what? This is good enough. Run a few more events and we'll get back to you. Sometimes we'll say yes. If the question was specific, I want the Pixel 4 XL 128 gig to give as a prize, most likely the answer will be like, no. Right? And we can go with that. The second part of the question, though, is a really good question of, is there a pathway between DSC and other programs? Absolutely yes. We highly encourage that. Interact and network with GDGs, GDEs. You're specifically asking about Launchpad. Is there a direct path that if you build a project as part of the solution challenge that it becomes a startup? First of all, great. I'd love if all of them end up being like that. You want to kick it off as a startup? Great. We are already built a connection as a DSC lead, as a DSC organization with Google to say, hey, there's this Launchpad program. Let's look at the requirements to get in there. We can have those introductions made. Is there a direct path? No. But it is definitely a great starting point to have those conversations.
Good.
Awesome. Next question, please.
Wait.
Wait.
I got one right here. Adam.
I'm looking at someone.
You see me?
There we go.
There we go.
Okay. Can we actually just get you in line, please? I'm sorry. You may have had a mic.
But okay.
Okay. I'll let you take your question, but go ahead.
I got it. Good.
Take
Okay. It's just like it's a story type question. What was the hardest part for y'all getting started, and like how did you overcome it? Because I know everybody had like a different story. So
Let's get one person to answer that. Whoever's interested. Go ahead.
The hardest part for me getting started is what is Developer Student Club? No one in my area knows what that is. They're like, what? What is this? What do you mean developers support you? That was the biggest challenge is I was like, oh yeah, it's a tech club, but it's not really a tech club. We're just doing stuff using technology. And they're like, how does that work? So explaining what the Developer Student Club is and making your message really clear of the path that you want to create with your club and what you want from your club so that students actually understand what's happening here. That's my biggest struggle, and communicating that in a technical and non-technical way to your different audiences, making sure you're mindful of who you're talking to.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hello. So kind of going back to the spirit of trying to be more diverse and including, I think Jade has kind of answered this question, but I kind of just want to put it out there again. How would you market developer student clubs to people who are less technical? Because I think the problem with my school is that it's mostly a business school, and so when business people or my English major friends think about Google or that I'm starting a club called Developer Students Club that will help people with Google Cloud or whatsoever, they get turned off because they just don't have the technical skills. Like when they hear stuff like machine learning or Google Assistant, they'll just turn their heads away because they're too intimidated. How would you market the club in a way that helps them want to come to our meetings? And should we hold these workshops and cloud study jams for these business people as well, or should we just do them for the more technical people? How would you strike that balance?
Cater your content to your audience, right? So how would you expect, or how would you want an English major to enjoy tech? Ask them what are some problems they face in their courses, in their stream, and ask them, do you think you want to scale it? Do you think technology can help you solve it in a different way? So cater your events to your audience. So for tech students, run the bigger events, the ones that are more technical. Run a more introductory level for interested English students or business students who genuinely want to learn. Make sure you cater, and that's the key. That's the way to go. And in my opinion, that's the way to go.
And I just want to add on, I know we have limited time, but I want to share something that Deepak spoke to me about yesterday. Your community challenges, the challenges around which you're building your projects, they're technical challenges, perhaps, but technical challenges exist in every industry. And if you have students that are interested in music, for example, you walk into a music shop, look for something that you can help with. With Dash's example of English, perhaps they need a way to improve how they write their essays. Perhaps you can work on solutions that generate essay templates, and you just have to fill in the blanks. There's a lot of interesting technical problems. Every industry, you'll find them. So just because they're non-technical doesn't mean they can't contribute to the project. In fact, the management of the project, the defining of the problems, and the validation that your solutions work is just as important as the development part of it. So that would be the best way. Make sure that your challenges actually appeal to the people that you're working with, non-technical.
A quick follow-up question. So how would you market that part? Would you, in your posters, would you say something like, you don't have to program, come join us, all majors welcome, something like that?
When I marketed my first event, I remember I worked with we have an experiential learning hub. So it's co-op career services. And they made it really clear. They're like, with your event, make sure you say all welcome. Everything I posted in all capitals, I said no coding experience required, all welcome. I said everyone from every single major. And then I listed a whole bunch of majors. I was like, every single person is welcome to join this club. This is not just exclusive for computers. So make it very, very clear. They're still going to get confused, but try and just really tell them you don't need coding experience. Put in all caps that every single person is welcome. No technical background needed. Make sure that you just hone that home and just keep repeating it as many times as you need in all caps, all what you got to do.
All right, thank you. Awesome.
So we've been talking a lot about diversity and recruiting students from different majors, but what are some ways to recruit students from different backgrounds, and why is it crucial?
Different backgrounds, are we talking about majors and?
No, we're by different backgrounds, I'm talking about ethnicities.
I know on my campus we have a lot of different ethnic groups. Do you have that at your campus? Are there Hispanic engineers or stuff like that on your campus? Do they have groups like that?
Yeah.
I would consider reaching out to them. I would consider, especially now in the beginning, doing a lot of announcements in clubs like that, going in for just a few minutes and letting them know about your club and what you're doing. Maybe pass around a flyer or distribute a link to them to display their interests so that you can have their email and everything. And then next time you're having an event, you can just let them know about it and see if they're interested in coming.
I agree with that statement. I reach out to our women in women in computer science and our women in science and engineering program, queers, anything. It's good.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Last question for the panel.
Okay, so you've been talking a lot about the core team and stuff, but I just wanted to know what are your core team members like? What are their majors? What are their majors? And yeah, that's it.
So I would focus on thinking about your club as a giant corporation. It could even be a tech corporation, even Google. But obviously everybody at Google is not in the tech field. Think of all the different majors and avenues for that, marketing, event planning, all of that. I would go to those majors for each specific thing and also not do just one. Do a whole, not hierarchy, but people under them of, okay, you have a PR major and then you have one for every single different social media, so that even if something happens with that main person, especially in the beginning of the club, they didn't think it was as much work as it could be and they left, that you have somebody to move up and take over that position, possibly younger people at the bottom who are working their way up to get that leadership experience, and just marketing like that. Because if it's somebody in a marketing major, it's probably a lot more difficult for them to get those leadership positions in a club specific towards their major, because there's so many people competing for those spots. But in your club, it might be a little easier, especially now, for them to get a position like that and really grow their leadership opportunities. So I think they'd be really interested in that.
I have a slightly different way that I ran my club personally, and that's why every university campus is a bit different. In my core team, I don't have any roles defined. And everyone is just an exec of the club. And I feel like that works, because if you put someone on marketing, if you put someone on logistics, they're doing the same thing. Imagine room booking 10 times through the year, and that's your involvement with the club, right? So for me, I prefer to go role-less. I prefer to distance myself from running as a company as much as possible, because you're a student club and you're not generating profit. So efficiency, that doesn't matter as much as long as you get your things done. We have, in terms of majors, specifically computer science, engineers, management students, and designers, like architecture students. So it's a wild mix of different majors. But don't focus so much on their technical backgrounds or even their academic backgrounds. It doesn't matter as much, because everyone in your team should be comfortable with doing all sorts of different roles. So that's my take on this core team idea. I don't want to divide people into different specific roles, but there are a lot of different approaches. It really does depend on your campus.
This was, are we good? Yeah. This was absolutely amazing. Thanks for that question. Thanks for all the questions, and a huge round of applause for our panelists. These were not easy questions. These definitely were not easy questions. Some out of their realm and whatnot. They handle it like champs. So thank you very, very, very much for that. All right, I'll let you guys get off stage now.